Together. Joining me now is Eric Siegel, professor of law at Georgia State University, and Huffington Post justice reporter Ryan Reilly. So I want to start and ask about that question of whether or not we are seeing the court tilt more in the direction of public religiosity, or is this case just sort of an outlier? And I'll start with you, Eric.
I think this case is a huge shift by the Supreme Court because it allows, really for the first time, explicit references to one religion over time. There were 8 years of Christian prayers in this town. 2/3 of those referred to Jesus. Before we really weren't sure what the court would do with such overtly sectarian prayers. And now we know that a pattern and practice of virtually all Christian prayers at a town council meeting are constitutional, according to 5 of the 9 justices.
And you know what, Ryan, to that point, Justice Kagan, in her dissent, wrote that the clergy, in doing these prayers, put some of the residents in the unenviable choice of either pretending to pray like the majority or declining to join its communal activity at the very moment of petition, the very moment they're petitioning their elected leaders. And is that really the danger here, that essentially by saying that it is okay to even do a sectarian prayer, mentioning Jesus overtly, that it's okay to put a non-believer in the position of either pretending to go along or feeling, even if it's just subtly, feeling somehow excluded?
Right. That was the sort of majority's contention, that this wasn't an issue of people being coerced into it because they had the option to sort of walk out of the room, as they suggested. But that's, I don't think, practically just how this would work. If you have business before the town council, you're not going to want to be seen storming out of the room and taking some offense to the proceedings that are happening in there, because that might probably not help your case with the people you're petitioning. And
Eric, I'm struck by, as much as this ruling did strike me as moving the bar really a lot further to the right toward almost sort of a preference for religion. One wonders whether they would have ruled the same way had the prayers been, let's say, Muslim prayers. Justice Clarence Thomas went even further than the decision, and he wrote a separate concurring opinion in which he said this. In a concurring opinion, he said that only actual legal coercion counts, not the subtle coercive pressures allegedly felt by respondents in this case. And essentially, Thomas implied that states should be able to establish official religions even if the federal government cannot do so. That strikes me as very alarming. Should I be alarmed?
Yes, you should, but only because Justice Thomas said it. 8 other judges didn't agree with that. And there's no way a majority of the court would hold to that pretty radical view. If I may, if we could take the constitutional law out of this question for a minute and just ask what is the right thing for the people in the town council at Greece, New York to do, and I think that answer is pretty obvious. A moment of silence. I'm not talking about constitutional law. I'm just talking about what is the right and I think, frankly, Christian thing to do. Have a moment of silence, make it inclusive. Jews, Christians, Catholics, Muslims can pray or not pray. Atheists and agnostics can have a moment of silent reflection. And that would send a message that in America, before the government, all religions are treated equally. And if I could do a quick shout out to your competitors, I would think Hannity and O'Reilly and those folks who claim their patriotism would be all behind that. We're all Americans. We're not American Jews, not American Catholics. And a moment of silence would do everything the prayer does.
But that's very charitable of you to say that you think they'd go along with that, because we've had that, right? For many years, that has been the protocol, that we've gone to the moment of silence, whether it's at football games or in schools, and you still have people in the Christian religious community pushing that boundary further, saying the moment of silence is not enough. And in this case, they were victorious. 5 members of the United States Supreme Court said you can go beyond that moment of silence. Hasn't that wall already been broken down, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, I think to a certain extent, and you sort of see the giveaway to a little bit in that, the issue here is rather whether the prayers are very secular. And in the town of Greece, basically what they were doing, they didn't open it up until everyone, all the prayers were Christian prayers, until this case really came about. And then only then did they go out and sort of search for a Jewish rabbi and some other religious officials to sort of get in on the case to make it, seem more fair.
I mean, that is, I think, the worry here, that as much as you're saying, Eric, that a moment of silence would solve it, now, given this ruling, why should any town hold to a moment of silence? Why not just have evangelical prayer required in town meetings? And you know what? If people don't like it, too bad.
I have an answer for that. and I know I'm a constitutional law professor, I'm not talking constitutional law here, because it is the inclusive right thing to do for the government to welcome people of all faiths. And a moment of silence captures everything that is good about silent prayer, but it doesn't have any of the exclusiveness of 8 years in a row of one religion's prayer. So all I'm suggesting to people is forget the Constitution. Let's do the right thing and include everybody in a moment of silence, which, by the way, has worked in high schools, has worked at football games, and I have been to some great sporting events where there is a moment of quiet reflection on behalf of a great tragedy or a great celebration, either way, and it's a wonderful civic moment. Adding a particular faith's religion to that moment takes away from the moment. It doesn't add to the moment.
And just an exit question to you, Ryan. Do you get the sense in just covering this court that it is a court that is moving beyond precedent, that it is a court that seems demonstrably to be trying to, I guess, move the culture further in line with the justice's own religious values?
To a certain extent, yeah. I mean, I think that you can see that definitely in the religious breakdown. It's sort of interesting that you see, you know, people who belong to a majority religion, all except for, with the exception of Justice Sotomayor, went one way, and the people who belong to minority religions went the other way. I think probably because they can empathize with how those people might be perceiving this when they go to conduct business before their town council.
Yep, something we'll definitely be following up on. Eric Siegel and Ryan Reilly, thank you both.